Hey, it's Catherine Ewing here from Emotional Freedom at Last. I am your Sacred Heart alchemist and your emotional freedom catalyst. As you know, I work with a lot of clients who have some trauma history, and that can be anything from loss and abandonment, perhaps being given up for adoption, even if they were adopted into very loving families. It could be having grown up in a very dysfunctional family, perhaps where there were drugs or alcohol being used by the parents, or mental or emotional illness that kept them from being fully present for my client as they were growing up. Or it could be actually very traumatic abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, either within the family or outside of the family. And you may also know that I love using EFT. It's my go-to modality. I find it to be the, how do I want to say this? The gentlest, most respectful, and most effective and efficient modality to use around clearing up trauma, so that when we can release that energy that's been held in the energy field for so long, it actually supports raising our own vibrational frequency, and then we can begin to attract new and higher vibrating things into our lives. If you're familiar with the law of attraction, you know that like attracts like energy, right? And so if you have had a history of trauma or loss or dysfunctional family, or just grown up maybe in a loving family, but where you still got messages about children should be seen or not heard, or maybe, as in my family, there were 8 of us, and so perhaps we didn't all get the attention that we may have wanted or needed as kids growing up. It wasn't because our parents didn't love us, but they had their own belief systems, and they also had their own stressors and the limits to their own capacity, right, to be emotionally available for us. So it doesn't always have to be a really big trauma as we think of trauma. It could be little events, the belief systems of the families, things that have been handed down for generations that may in fact be traumas with a little t that get stored in our energy system, in our belief system, that keep us from really living fully who we are here to be as we move along in our lives. Today, however, I want to spend some time doing an EFT script that's a little bit unusual, and I'm just going to make this up off the fly because I've worked with a number of clients over the past couple of weeks here in my office and also over Skype who have had very significant trauma, whether it was incest that went on within the family for many years, or date rape, or a violent sexual assault of some kind, where tapping directly on the event itself is still too difficult. And I know that there are, many people, women in particular, but certainly men as well, who may have events in their lives that it's really not safe or comfortable or recommended that they tap on by themselves, because there's just too much trauma history there. There's too much emotion stored in the energy system, and it's not really safe for you to go there yourselves. So I'm going to share a little tapping sequence that you can use if you know there's something in your past, but you perhaps are not ready to delve into the details of it. Maybe you don't even remember the details of it because it has been pushed so far into your subconscious, or you know that it's not safe for you to go into the details of it because it might take you down a rabbit hole into depression or self-sabotage or self-destructive behaviors. So this is a way with tapping to still clear some of the energy of that event without going in directly into the details. It just keeps it a little further at a distance. So I'm just going to make this up as I go along. If you are familiar with tapping, you know that we start here on the karate chop spot with our setup phrase. So even though this thing happened to me that I can't even talk about because it's too upsetting, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though there's this thing in my past that was so traumatic that I can't deal with the details of yet, I deeply and completely accept myself and all of my feelings. Even though that terrible thing happened to me when I was just a kid, and it hurts too much to go there and think about it, and I'm afraid to go there. I deeply and completely accept myself and my feelings. And now we're just going to tap on the different points as we go along. So starting at the top of the head, that thing that happened to me when I was a kid on the inside of the eyebrow, so long ago, but it's still with me on the side of your eye. I can't let myself think about it. Under the eye, I don't even remember all of the details. Under your nose, I don't want to remember the details. It's too painful. Under your lip, I'm afraid to go there. I'm afraid to think about that thing. On the collarbone, that terrible thing that happened to me so long ago. And under your arm, just right on the brow line, that traumatic episode, that trauma that happened over and over again. And we're just going to repeat the cycle here. I don't want to think about it, but I know it affects me. I hid it away for a really long time. I had no memory of it, but there was a part of me that knew it was there. And now it seems to be bubbling up to the surface, little bits and pieces of information that don't really make sense to me, but I know it's about something that happened. That thing that happened so long ago when I was little and I couldn't protect myself, when I couldn't defend myself against that other person or those other people. That thing that I don't want to talk about that happened more than once in my childhood. It doesn't feel safe and it doesn't feel okay to talk about it, to talk about the details. But I know there's a part of me that's ready to remember, and that is so scary. I don't want to remember. I want to keep it locked away. But I don't think that's helping me either, because in some way, even though it's locked away, it's still having an impact on me. I'm not living the kind of life I want to live. I self-sabotage. I do destructive things. I feel depressed and anxious so much of the time. I haven't had the kind of relationships that I want because I'm so scared. I don't trust myself. I don't trust other people. And I know that this thing or these things that happened have something to do with that. I feel so much shame and humiliation. I've tried really hard not to let it get in my way. I'm really strong and I'm really resilient, and I've done a pretty good job of moving past it. In fact, I thought I'd moved completely past it. It was in my past so long ago, but the truth is, even though it was so long ago, it's not really in my past. It's still present in my emotional body, in my energy body. It's present in my thoughts, in my relationships. It seems to affect everything, even though I've done such a good job to try to push it away, to try to hide it, to try to keep from thinking about it. I've done pretty well. I've managed some parts of my life well, but I know that I could be living my life much more richly. I know that I want a fuller life. I know that I want to be able to trust myself. I know that I want to be able to trust other people. I know that I don't want to feel anxious all the time. I'd like to feel more relaxed and peaceful in my own mind and in my own body. I'd like to be able to let go of these thoughts, these racing thoughts, these anxious thoughts, these thoughts that keep me awake at night. I know that I would like to be able to feel more relaxed and more calm, and to be able to breathe more deeply. But there's a part of me that's always on guard, that just doesn't feel safe. It's hard for me to imagine that there could even be a way to feel safe in the world, to not always feel on guard, to not have my antenna up, to not always, at some level, be looking out for potential danger or potential harm. I don't want to live like this anymore. And I know that I'm going to have to deal with that thing if I want to have a life that's peaceful and relaxed, where I can trust myself and trust other people, where I can open up and be seen and be visible and be heard. If I ever want to step into all of who I am, the truth of who I am, because that thing that happened, whether it was 1 time, 10 times, or 100 times, isn't who I am. It doesn't define me. Yes, it happened. It's part of my story, but it has nothing to do with who I am at the core of my being, at my most essential nature, as a beloved child of God, as a spark of creation, as a beautiful bright light. Yes, I've been dampened. I've had some things that have dimmed my light and made me want to hide or shut down or play it safe. But the truth is, that isn't really who I am. I came here for a purpose, and I came here to make a difference in the world. And perhaps that thing or those things that happened to me are part of my purpose. Perhaps there are lessons there for me. Perhaps if I could let go of the shame or the fear or the anxiety or the depression or the humiliation or the self-sabotage that surround that thing that happened, that terrible event in my life. Perhaps if I could let that go and tell a different story, I could step into who I came here to be. And so I choose today, even though it's scary, even though I don't want to just be open to the possibility that I could address that thing deeply and completely, so that I could let it go from my mind, from my body, from my spirit, and step into who I really am without that story, without that trauma, as a divine spark of creation. And that feels good. So just allowing yourself to settle down now. Perhaps even though we didn't talk in detail, there were still some emotions, still some feelings that bubbled up, and that's perfectly understandable and acceptable and okay. Don't get scared about that. You can continue to use this script, if it's helpful, to help you open to the possibility of addressing those things from your past that you would like to release from your system, that you would like to let go of once and for all. So many blessings to you. Please be in touch with me if I can support you in any way. Remember, location is not a problem. We can work by Skype, if not in person here in my office, and I would love to speak with you. So if you want to be in touch and just explore what's possible, please go to my website, www.emotionalfreedomatlast.com, and put your information into the little box on the right that says contact me or let's connect or something like that. I never remember exactly what it says, but go ahead and put your information in, and we'll be in touch and see if there's some way that I can support you in your journey to let go of what's no longer serving you anymore and really step into who you came here to be. Okay, my dears, that's enough for this time. Have a wonderful day. Namaste. I'll speak with you soon. Bye now.